So our research is about people's contribution on the internet, users, consumers, audiences, voluntary creative contribution to different websites. We study why these contributions relate to companies' marketing communication activities and whether they need to deal with it or not. My two other colleagues did their dissertation on this topic, Éva Markos-Kujbus and Tamás Csordás. If I want to give an insight, I can say, or I can talk about the example of Grumpy Cat, who is known to everyone, most famous feline, who has a very strange face and everyone knows. And it's a coincidence that she got so famous. And what happened is that today brands connect to Grumpy Cat, and she became a representation of Friskies, for example, but that's just one thing. On the other hand, people use her face as an internet meme without paying for this very valuable brand. And in the research, we study these kind of voluntary contributions.
So in this part of the project, we analyzed 700 internet memes. Actually, the theme was about the Game of Thrones, the universe, and what brands are associated with these pieces of consumer-generated content, and which is really an interesting context because, of course, these user-generated pieces of content are entertaining content. So people don't watch them because they want to get informed about brands, but they watch them because they want to get entertained. And even in this context, actually, brands find us as consumers. So maybe brands also can use this as part of their formal marketing communications campaigns. And what we found actually was that it's not that easy because even though brands did appear in the sample, they were really appearing in the consumer-generated context, and they were about the representations of users, about brands that were peculiar to them, and the contents of these messages were not always what, for example, brands might want them to be. So what we found actually that it's really hard to control these messages, and this is a really great issue for companies if they want to use them as directed marketing communications messages.
In this research part, we have analyzed electronic word of mouth on TripAdvisor because as you think, okay, I'd like to go anywhere. Oh, let's see what consumers write about my hotel on TripAdvisor. It can be a decision support vehicle. And after that, we see that it can be a valuable information for organizations, not just for consumers. So we analyzed the content of TripAdvisor reviews, and yes, we can see and say that they are valuable information. For example, just let's see, there are information about reviewers, about specific info and unique information, which can be used, for example, for improvement of service or organizations, and maybe that's it.
So we can look at implications from the perspective of the audiences and from the perspective of the companies. Audiences are very interesting because people contribute voluntarily and they can just ruin a company's goodwill, for example. So the question is, can we educate them? When will they become responsible contributors? And the other part is it's voluntary contribution. And do companies exploit them, or do they explore this content? Should they avoid these people who build their brands free of charge? From the corporate perspective, there are a lot of questions. One is the question of control. So how can a company cope with the fact that some part of their related communication is not in their hands anymore? They have to be more open to that. And of course, one very important implication for companies or a message, there is a great amount of information available. Analyze it and make some conclusion because it's, let's say, free of charge for them. And of course, the companies have the strategic opportunity to think about whether to act or react on that, whether to respond or not to respond. I would say for many companies to be very innovative and developing new platforms would be a good route. And for some we would recommend just ignore it because it does not contribute or it's not relevant for them.